Hello, students. It's Mr. Thayer, and I'd like to talk to you today about the Chapter 4 quiz and go over the key with you. So we'll start with number 1. Create a table with x values of -2, 0, and 2, and then graph the linear function. Let's take a look at a table for number 1 here. As you're going to see in this table here, you're being told what the x values are. So you need to create a 4-column, 4-row table that demonstrates your x values, your equation work, your y values that you get as a result, and finally your points. The purpose of making a table is so that you can get these coordinates right here, and you can plot these points on your graph. So there's your 0, 1, there's -2, 5, and there's 2, -3, and then you would draw a line through your points with arrows at either end. All right, let's move on to number 2, where we talk about creating a table of your own values. So you get to pick the 3 x values this time. You still need to make sure that they make sense and show all your work in a 4x4 table and then graph it. So here we go. In number 2, it always makes sense. It's always a good idea, as I've told you in class, to choose 0 as an x value. So here's our 0 right there. And then you get the point 0, 1 as a result. Then, because you're multiplying by -1/4 in your equation, it's ideal to choose x values that easily are multiplied by that number, such as -4 and +4, although you could have chosen any ones you wanted. These generate our next 2 points, which we would then plot on our line, -4, 2, and 4, 0, and then draw a straight line with arrows at either end through your graph. Now, common sense is going to say that it has a negative slope, so your line should be going down from left to right. That's an easy way to check your work. So that was 1 and 2. Let's take a look at number 3. Number 3 and 4 say find the slope of a line, show your work on the graph, or use the slope formula. So if you chose to show your work on the graph, well, you needed to copy down the graph and show me the vertical and the horizontal change. Alternatively, if you chose to use the slope formula, then you can demonstrate your work by writing out the slope formula for 3 and 4. So take a look here. Here's the 2 points from number 3, labeled. Plug them into the slope formula by subtracting their y values, divided by the subtracting of their x values. Now a negative over a negative will simplify to a positive slope of 4/5. Repeat this process for number 4. Take the 2 points, plug them into the slope formula, subtract the y values, divided by the subtraction of the x values, and here you'll get -2/6, which I accepted as an answer, but please note that that can be reduced to -1/3. So there's 3 and 4, finding the slope from a graph. Let's take a look at number 5. In number 5, you have a situation. The cost in dollars for pounds of deli meat is represented by the equation. Now note here that y is dollars and x represents pounds. So that should tip you off right now to label your x and y axis, and you'll see that in the key. And then create a table and graph your equation. So this is really just like number 1 and 2, with the exception that because we're talking about pounds of deli meat and the cost, we're only going to deal with positive x values to choose from. So 0 is always a great choice, and then pick a couple more x values of your choosing, like 2 and 4, plug them in to generate some points, and here they are. These are some examples. There's 0, 0, meaning if you bought 0 pounds of meat, it cost you $0. Here's another example of a point. 2, 7, 2 pounds of meat, $7, and so on. Okay, draw a line through your points, label your y and x axis so we know what we're talking about, and we'll move on to part B now. Part B says, if your order cost $10.50, how much meat did you buy? Use this equation to answer the question, y equals 3.5x. So if we know how much money we spent, $10.50, we can plug that in for y because that represents your dollars. So plug that in for y and simply solve for x, your pounds of deli meat. And by doing that, we locate x equals 3, so you bought 3 pounds of deli meat would be our answer here. Okay, onward to number 6. Which lines are parallel? Show mathematical evidence and give reasoning sentence of how you know. So although you might be able to guess at which one of these look parallel to each other, you need to prove it by finding their slopes, because we know the slopes of parallel lines are the same. So you could draw on the graph and copy it down and show me the vertical and horizontal change. Or, as you'll see demonstrated here, you can use the slope equation for all three of these lines. So by plugging the points into the slope equation, as you can see here, I got a slope of -1/6 for A, -1/4 for line B, and -1/6 for line C, making A and C the same slope, and therefore A and C are parallel to each other. So I needed to see your slope work here. You have to demonstrate how you know the slope. You can't just write down the slope is this without explaining how you got it. Okay, that takes us to our bonus question now. Our bonus question was related to, are the given lines perpendicular? Explain your reasoning, and there's no credit without your explanation. So you can't just make a guess. You have to explain how you know or how you don't know whether they're perpendicular. Well, here's how we know. X equals -2. That is a vertical line. All x equals a number are vertical lines. Meanwhile, y equals 2 is a horizontal line. So when you have a horizontal line crossing a vertical line, they're always going to be perpendicular. And that's how we know these two are perpendicular to each other, because one is a horizontal line, the other one's vertical. Okay, so check over your work, make the necessary corrections in your notebook so you can learn for the next time you're tested on these topics at the end of chapter 4. Have a great day. Bye.